Hello and welcome to screencast number 2 on recovery. If we just get you to kind of make the title note here, which is basically looking at the ALACTACID recovery system. So basically, as we looked at yesterday, was a graph. The first part of recovery is called the ALACTACID recovery. Now, a point you might want to make, with this A in front of lactic acid, it means that it's without lactic acid. This is not focusing on lactic acid. So the first thing you know when you have an A in front of the lactic acid is it is not focusing on removing lactic acid. The second system, which is called the ALACTACID recovery system, that is responsible for moving lactic acid. So when you see that A in front of it, it's without. It's not getting rid of it. Okay? So what do we have to do? That first part of recovery, okay, there are certain physiological processes that take place. Now, when you're doing your Cornell notes, I have kind of put the questions down here to help you. These are the questions you should have. Okay, so I'm going to go through these. So basically, first up, this whole concept of recovery takes place via EPOC, okay? Because we have excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, we can repay or we can replenish any fuels that we've lost when exercising. Now, we talked about that oxygen deficit before, okay? So the oxygen deficit comes because at the start, when we first start running, we are working anaerobically without oxygen, okay? Now, when we finished, we're in that first phase, the first component of recovery, we now do have oxygen because we've stopped, we've rested, and we've finished the exercise. So, EPOC, it's always good to just have a quick definition of what that is there, okay? Then, first of all then, what is it, or what is ALACTACID recovery? Well, basically, the first thing we need to say is the first and fast component of recovery. Okay, so that is all we need for that. It's how we start. So you get your first mark by saying, right, the ALACTACID is the first and fast component of recovery. Now, what is the key function, okay, of the ALACTACID recovery system? Now, if you think about it, when you start to run at the very start of exercise, and you're running anaerobically, the things that deplete first are your PC and ATP stores, okay, because they get tired out pretty quickly, as we talked about. So the first thing that happens in our ALACTACID recovery system, the function of the ALACTACID recovery system, is to replenish or resynthesize ATP and PC stores, and it does this via EPOC, okay? So EPOC is used to resynthesize ATP and PC stores. So that is the first bit of information you need to do. So how does it happen? In order to get this ATP and PC back, okay, what happens is the ATP and PC are broken down, okay, so ATP is broken down and then PC is then reformed or broken down again and resynthesizes ATP as we looked before. So when you've got this bit here, how does it happen? Well, it happens because we're breaking down ATP and then PC is broken down and then resynthesized to make ATP again. This is known as an endothermic reaction because we're using energy from the breakdowns to actually produce that. So the answer to this one is, how does it happen? Endothermic reaction. You could give an example of PC breaking down. We're using that energy to then resynthesize ADP into ATP if you wanted to, just as an example there to show how ATP is produced. So, is it an aerobic or anaerobic process? So the first things first, you know, the title says EPOC, okay? The whole concept is EPOC, so excess post-oxygen consumption. So it's an aerobic or anaerobic process. It's an aerobic process. Now, the big thing about this, and the extra little bit of detail, is because it's aerobic, straight away, it adds to the fuels that can be broken down, okay? So because oxygen is present now, not only can glycogen be broken down, also by glycolysis, also fats can be broken down by oxidation. So basically you have this concept now of being able, because it's aerobic, two fuels, fats and glycogen, can be broken down to give us energy. Now, how much oxygen is needed for the first and fast component, the ALACTACID recovery system? You basically need 4 litres, okay? So 4 litres are required to let all of this kind of stuff happen. So 4 litres is the number we need there. Okay, as we go through there, okay, what happens to the oxygen when we get all of this oxygen? Now, if you remember from ASPE, we talked about kind of the transfer of oxygen into the muscle cells. When oxygen gets takes place, or diffusion takes place to oxygen, and it moves into your muscle cells, the actual oxygen binds to something in the muscle cell and it carries the oxygen actually to allow us to carry muscular contractions. And the thing that it's carried by, so if you remember it's in the blood, it was hemoglobin, and then when it gets diffused into the muscle cell, it attaches to myoglobin. So once the oxygen, we've got this 4 litres of oxygen, what actually happens to it, okay, to allow the muscles to contract and work, is that it attaches to myoglobin to form oxymyoglobin. Okay, so how long does it take? So how basically this concept of this process, this first part, remember we're going from 0 to 3 minutes, so ultimately it'll take about 2 to 3 minutes, okay, in the first phase. Now, they'd like you to know, and we'll look a little bit more about this when we do a practical, the recovery ratios for PC, okay? So what we're saying then is how fast, when you stop exercising and oxygen is present, do you get to resynthesize PC or phosphocreatine? Now, basically 50% of your phosphocreatine stores are resynthesized in the first 30 seconds. Now, that will start to make a kind of give you an understanding. When people go to the gym and they do a heavy weight session, okay, you usually will have a break. Okay, the break will depend, dependent upon how much you want your PC stores to recover. If you did a weight training session that's really high intensity and you were lifting a heavy weight and you did 7 repetitions on a heavy weight, okay, and when you did that, you then tried to do go again in 30 seconds, you will notice that you're not very strong, and the reason is because you've only resynthesized 50% of your PC stores. Okay, so you need a little bit longer, so people often have 90 seconds to 2-minute break to make sure their PC stores are recovered so that then they can go for explosive contractions after this. So, what I need from you for tomorrow, okay, is you will have key bits of information, okay? This will be the questions that go on the left-hand side of your Cornell notes. On the right-hand side, you will have key bits of information that you'll talk about, okay? So you might have here, first and fast component, okay, of recovery. Okay, what's the function of it? Using EPOC to resynthesize ATP and PC stores. How does it happen, etc. You've got your little bit of notes that will be here, and then you've got your questions there, and you need a little summary at the end. That's it for today. I need you to have a good go at learning this tonight and try to make sure that you can get, ultimately in the exam, you're going to need 5 points from here, okay? Some of it's very easy. I mean, we know it's an aerobic process because it's using EPOC, okay? You need to learn how much oxygen is required. And then when the oxygen is there, what happens to it when it binds to something? It's got to bind to something. So straight away, you've got 3 questions or answers or pieces of notes that involve oxygen. Okay, that makes it very easy to get marks. We know it's the first and fast component. Okay, I'm not going to keep talking now. You have a look at it. I've gone through the questions. Pause, make notes where you need to. These questions must be able to be answered, or you should have a good go at answering them with some notes on this side by tomorrow's lesson. Thank you very much.